So, Tom, it's Marco Mendocino Day here on the show today because it's Thursday. And, of course, the calls are out for him to resign. The Conservatives went to town on this yesterday. He was scrummed this morning. Take a listen. This is all over what we have found out, and you can put this in context after you hear
Yeah,
with respect to
sure.
Paul Bernardo and not having done anything. Here's what he said.
What's important is that these issues are identified and they're corrected. And so that is what I have done with my team to be sure that there is no further breakdown in information flow. It is important that I get those briefings in a timely manner. That is made abundantly clear.
That sound you heard, I think, was him pushing himself down the stairs. What do you think happens here, Tom? Is he going to resign, be forced to resign? Because he seemed very calm when he gave that statement.
I'd be very surprised if he survives the summer in that role as public security minister. Perhaps Trudeau will put him somewhere else. I mean, he's a Toronto area MP who speaks pretty decent French, very loyal to Trudeau. But let's look at his track record over the past 6 months, because it's not just this mess that he's gotten himself into. Out of nowhere, he produced a series of amendments when he was looking at the gun legislation early in the year. And lo and behold, it was absolutely incomprehensible. I remember us looking at this stuff on air and saying, look, this guy's just presented stuff that nobody understands. It's got every farmer and every hunter in the country up in arms, no pun intended about the arms. And it was just a disaster. And Trudeau had to pull back, make him redo all his homework. So that was an embarrassment for Trudeau and his team, because now Trudeau's been uninvited for every Polytechnique event from now on. He's not going to be allowed to show up. They've made that clear. So this is what's called a total failure. On this Paul Bernardo thing, of course, the minister's not allowed to stick his nose in Corrections Canada's decisions about where they put the prisoners any more than Trudeau was allowed to stick his nose in SNC-Lavalin. But at the same time, when this is coming up, you've got to prepare the public, and then you don't pretend you didn't know about it when all of your staff knew about it. And by the way, this isn't just personnel in the government itself. These are not bureaucrats. This is his hand-picked political staff. And he's saying, boy, have I ever gotten tough on them. I've told them they better let me know next time. Come on, man. This is the Sergeant Schultz excuse,
Oh, I heard that earlier today.
I mentioned that too.
Aaron
well,
said
it's
the same
true.
thing.
I mean, or okay, let's maybe it's the graduate course, the three monkeys defense: hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. I mean, it's just not credible. We saw the same thing. We were talking about this yesterday. So Bill Blair, when he was public security minister, got a full briefing on what was happening with Michael Chong and his family and the threats from China, except he didn't read it. And so they had the guy from CSIS, Mr. Vigneault, in yesterday, and he goes, no, I prepared the 9-page document myself, and I gave it to the people and said, this has to go to your minister. And then we had this fabulous guy who's now deputy minister, so he's in charge of Global Affairs Canada. He says, well, I was so busy taking care of our withdrawal from Kabul, I couldn't possibly have time to read this. Yeah, that's because the withdrawal of Canada from Kabul, where we left thousands of people who had helped us on the tarmac, that went so well. Of course, he didn't have time to do anything else because he was busy taking care of that. So this has just exposed another side of the government. I mean, Trudeau does some things extremely well. He's great as an individual on the international stage. Their handling of the pandemic, to give one example, was great. But the actual running of the government, the day-to-day stuff, they get terribly wrong. And then they keep telling lies constantly about who knew what when. And by the way, that's why Trudeau is still fighting like crazy to not have a full inquiry into the Chinese government interference in Canadian elections. Why? Because there's stuff in there about what they knew and when they knew it, and they're never going to be able to explain why they didn't act. And the only supposition that people have is the one that I have, and the one that Bob Fife has already shared with you, Aaron and Natasha, when he said the reasons the Liberals didn't do anything when they found out about this stuff is because it was to their advantage, and they don't want that to come out. And that's why they're still stonewalling a full, proper public inquiry.
So let me ask, with respect to Justin Trudeau, I know we've talked about this a bunch. You mentioned you think an election, even far back, at the beginning of this year, you're saying October wouldn't be out of the question. So given everything that's gone on now, 2 questions. Do you still believe that we're going to have an election in October? And is Justin Trudeau going to stick around for that election?
Those are the 2 key questions. So let's do them in order. Is there going to still be an election this fall? Not if Trudeau leaves, because then he'll have to call a leadership, and then they've got an excuse to drag it on. And it's very unlikely that the thing will provoke things. Because it's up to Trudeau to call the election. All he has to do is walk across the lawn from Rideau Cottage to Rideau Hall and ask Mary Simon for a writ, and he's got an election. If he thinks that he can win it, and the most recent numbers, Aaron, you saw them like I did. The most recent advocacy poll has Poilievre's Conservatives 7 points ahead of Trudeau. And now that's majority territory that Poilievre's getting close to there. So Trudeau's got to be worried about that. But I also think that some of that is completely fake. It's just people saying we're so tired of Trudeau that we're willing to say that we'll vote for anybody else, but it's up to Trudeau to pick up his stuff and say, okay, I'm leaving. And so there are people like Mark Carney, Chrystia Freeland, to name a couple of them, who would love to take his place. And are they going to go to an election? So the next one is, what's the timing of the election? So one of the things I'm going to keep my eye on over the next week, 10 days, is whether or not Trudeau prorogues Parliament. So all summer long, the opposition parties are going to be able to drive Trudeau crazy by holding parliamentary committees on all the subjects they want. It's a minority government. They can convene these committees. They can stay in the news. Usually a government can control that sort of stuff when they've got the majority. Here, they cannot. And so if they're doing that, Trudeau pulls the plug, prorogues, which just means you're suspending, you're hitting pause. Then you get rid of the committees. They don't exist anymore. But your ministers are still your ministers, and they can go across Canada with government largesse and Trudeau can do the barbecue circuit, start seeing what the public reaction is to him. He's a very, very good campaigner. I can attest to that firsthand. He loves that. He loves getting out there on the hustings. And if he's starting to sense that he might be able to pull it off, yes, he could keep his options open. It would be very easy for him, once they've prorogued, not to have Parliament come back at the end of September on schedule. He could aim for something a little bit different. That way he doesn't give back to Pierre Poilievre his ability to stand up in the House and beat him up in question period. Because really Trudeau is getting tired of getting pummeled by Poilievre at question period, because Poilievre is incredibly effective. You can not like his style, you can hate his politics, but you got to recognize the fact that this guy is exceptionally effective on Trudeau, especially at question period. Trudeau just dissembles. He falls apart. He can't handle it. He doesn't like this guy, and it shows. But all of this extra stuff you and I just talked about, the Bill Blair stuff, all the fibbing by Mendocino, and it's not me, it's my staff. Hey, buddy, this is the British parliamentary system. You're responsible because ministers are responsible. So stop finding your excuses and stop blaming your staff.
Okay.
Tom, let's talk about the by-election NDG Westmount happening on Monday. Tick-tock, tick-tock. It's coming up fast and furious. Anna Gainey, as we talked about yesterday, kind of MIA. The debates was canceled, right? So you had said that you think Anna Gainey did not show up to the Monday debate, and she didn't plan, evidently, to come to the one tonight. What is going on there? Is there something behind the scenes? Also, Matthew Kaminsky, we've discussed the fact that he hasn't been allowed to talk to the media, with, I think, one exception. What was it, Aaron? The Westmount...
He gave an interview to the Westmount Examiner, Westmount Independent, yeah.
Well, because, don't forget, whatever he says in this campaign, for example, on Bill 96... Poilievre's going to wear it. And Poilievre, for example, on Bill 21, has said one thing and its total opposite within just a few days of each other during his leadership campaign. He came out at the beginning foursquare in favor of Bill 21. Then he got beaten up by the party types saying, you will not win a single seat in Toronto if you're in favor of Bill 21. Oops. And then out of nowhere, he changed his position 180 degrees. So which of those two Pierre Poilievres is going to show up for the campaign? I don't think they've decided yet. So with regard to Kaminsky, that's probably one of the reasons that he hasn't been showing up. With regard to Anna Gainey, I've checked with several people, and the information I'm getting is that, because I assumed that it was the party just pulling off what we call, there's actually a term for it, a front-runner strategy. They figure they've got this, and they're just going to hide her and not let her take any chances. But what I'm getting is it's actually her decision. She doesn't want to do debates. So I'm sorry. If you want to be a member of Parliament, you better get used to being in debates, even in debates that can be uncomfortable for you. And that's one of the things that people in the Liberal Party forgot. In 2007, when Jack Layton and I won a totally unpredicted and implausible victory in that Liberal stronghold of Outremont, it was during a by-election. Because what the Liberals forgot in the 15, 16 years since then is that by-elections are for the voting public a moment to send a message. So what I'm picking up, like literally talking, like you guys do on the air, like hundreds and hundreds of people in that riding, I'm getting a large number. They're saying, I couldn't look at myself in the mirror if I voted Liberal again on this one. It's a by-election. It's only going to be for a short while, but I'm going to vote for anybody else if I vote at all. And so I suspect we're going to get a low voter turnout, but I also believe that the Liberal organizers are looking at what they call their pointage, their scorecard from door to door, and they're saying, we got this. We're not going to take any chances. We're not going to expose her. And she's obviously, she's not insisting on going to any of these debates. So it is ultimately her decision, of course. But I think it's a missed opportunity for her to present herself to the people that she wants to represent.
She's a bit of a disservice, Tom, isn't it, to those voters who want to be able to hear what the candidates have to say?
Well, exactly. Voter. And she's forgetting, if she ever knew, that by-elections are an opportunity for the voting public to send a message. And that's where I won in Outremont with Jack Layton, and then we won again because we were able to set down roots and make the thing a little bit more solid, and I won 4 times total for the NDP in Outremont, of all places. So I think that anybody who believes that NDG Westmount is such a perfect Liberal riding that nothing could ever happen, I think they're mistaken. Are they mistaken in believing that they've got this? Probably not. Because, they've got good organizers, they've got people on the ground, they've got longtime members and that sort of thing. But I think that they're playing with fire by simply deciding that they can pull off this sort of stunt. And Anna Gainey is not showing, in my view, I'm sure she's got tremendous personal qualities, but in my view, she's not showing a lot of respect for the people who vote in that riding by not even coming out and being willing to talk to them in that sort of structured debate where everybody gets a chance to say their piece.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, and I've told you this before, Tom, the only time I voted NDP was that time I was in your riding.
I remember where you lived. I remember meeting you, yeah.
You voted, you worked so hard to get my vote.
Yes.
You phoned, you showed up on my doorstep twice, and I was like, I'm going to vote for this guy. Anna Gainey has not shown up to my doorstep. My phone has not rung. I haven't even gotten a flyer. So,
That's really the thing. And the bit about the phoning and stuff like that, because I got an indication, again, from somebody that I quite trust on this sort of stuff, that there were actually riding staff from some of the other MPs. Now, I'm sure they're probably telling themselves, well, I'm taking some sort of leave while I'm making these calls. But again, these are people who are supposed to be not necessarily political operatives, working on a partisan election. But I think that's an indication of the extreme concern amongst the Liberals. Again, in my sense, they've got this thing.
Okay.
But I'm getting such strong pushback. People are so upset about what C-13 did to the English-speaking community of Quebec. David Lametti, who's been sitting on his hands with regard to Bill C-21 and C-13, and Trudeau, who shows no interest whatsoever in the English-speaking community of Quebec. And if you want to really get people angry at you, tell them that you're taking their vote for granted. And I think that's the mistake Trudeau and indeed Anna Gainey are making in this by-election.
Tom, thank you so much. Appreciate it.